We are building the calculator project from the YByte Python curriculum available at www.ybyte.in. In fact, we are almost done. We just saw in the last video how the equal to button works and the computation happens. However, there's something very, very interesting and very important that we need to do as far as this project is concerned right now. Let's say I do something which is not a valid mathematical operation. For example, let's say I try dividing by 0. So I say 100 divided by 0. Now, clearly, when I click equal to, this is not something that is a mathematically correct operation. But presently, what happens is that I get a huge error. Everything seems to kind of stall here, and I get an error saying division by 0. Now, why did this happen? Because remember, the way I'm working this is that I'm creating a string over here, which is formed by concatenating, or it's a joining the string in the expression to the string here in a box, and I create a string called 100.0. Now, if I try doing, let's say, this statement, eval 100 by 0, which is what I'm going to end up doing, let's say, while doing, let's say, this statement over here, clearly I'm going to get an error divide by 0. That's simply because 100 by 0 is not defined. So your first thought might be that, okay, let me just put a condition that if, let's say, division is the operator and I'm clicking 0 at the denominator, then it's wrong. But unfortunately, this is just one of the many types of errors that I can face. I can do something which is really, let's say, absurd, right? I can say 1.2.5.36 plus, let's say, 8. Now, again, this is a problem. In fact, if you look at my console, I've got something called invalid syntax, and I can try doing that here as well, right? So if I were to try do, let's say, 1.2 point, say, 3.36 plus 8, this is indeed invalid syntax, which means that if I were to try and wrap this in a string, which is what happens in my calculator program, and I do, let's say, an eval command, I will again get an error. So this is like kind of invalid syntax error. Another type of error I might get is that just an incomplete expression. So I say, for example, 12 plus 3 divided by, and I click equal to. Now, again, this nothing comes out because if you notice, I get this unexpected end of file, the E of while parsing. Basically, the line, so the expression was incomplete. I can try that if I were to try something like this in the eval. Let's say, 12 plus 3, if it's an incomplete statement, I get this again a syntax error. So my point is there are many ways I can end up in an error. I need a solid method to catch all of this and tell to the user that there's been an error. In fact, what we can do here is something that has been done many, many times by many students as part of enhancing our projects. Whenever we take an input from a user, there's always a possibility that there's something malicious coming in. In order to gracefully exit, we use this thing called the try and except statement. Now, what I can do is that I can tell my, my calculator, notice I'm in the press equal to function. I come and tell the calculator, well, try this, try to form this result. If you can, that's well and good. That means there's no error. However, if you see that there's some error, if you are like, in the except situation, so I say except, for example, that means, I mean, basically except here means that there's some error in this computation. If that happens, then I'm going to, so let me just do it carefully. I first try to, let's say, form the expression like usual, which I was doing earlier. However, I find that there's an error. So I just go and set my, let's say, the entry label, so I go and set my entry label text is, let's say, equal to perhaps ERROR. Now, of course, you can make it more elaborate. You can tell what kind of error has happened. Is it divide by 0 or is it some incomplete expression and so on? But for now, this should be just fine. Now, look at this try and except statement. In terms of the syntax, it's same as, or say similar to the if else statement. The way it works is that we are saying, okay, look, try doing this. If it works, well and good. But if there's any kind of error, do not panic. Just come to the except part of the thing and evaluate that. And which means in this case, it's going to show me an error. Now we can see this working. When I run my code, let's say I do 10, divide by, let's say 0. In this case, the moment I click equal to, I get an error and it kind of tells me 10 divided by 0 is, well, indeed an error, right? I can try something else. I try something, let's say 1.2.3.4.5.6, let's say plus 9. that's also an error, because what does this expression even mean, right? It's mathematically inconsistent. I could try, for example, let's say 12 plus 6 times, and if I click an equal to, it gives me an error because again it doesn't know what to do with this. So notice now my program is not getting stuck. In fact, it's quite, let's say, gracefully telling me that there's been some error. Maybe check your computation again and you should be fine. So this completes pretty much the calculator program. We have in fact come a long way. We started with putting this, let's say, the layout together, then we gave functionality to all of these buttons one by one, and in the process obviously we learned a lot of things. I hope this journey has been enjoyable to you. In general, if you find that this way of learning is fun, where we build activities, we understand things by doing them, by applying concepts, look at our website because we have many such videos. Take care. Thank you so much. Bye bye.